Typhon would descend from the skies, with Siesta in hand, along with some of her luggage, as they arrived back to Tristan Academy. Of course, Siesta had taken time off to spend with her family, her uncle, who ran his own tavern, and had the help of his daughter, also her cousin. But with the state of emergency, Siesta wanted to be back at school with everyone else. Plus, with a lot of people going off for the war and for being a part of the Grand Army, she knew that they were going to need help when it came to the laundry, the cooking, and all of the other day-to-day duties that went along with being a part of the Tristan Academy's cleaning force. Of course, there was Ty, who had been doing a bulk of the work in protecting the village, and Siesta could see that it was taking a lot out of him. Sure, he just had to deal with the occasional rogue group of bandits or some monstrous creature that came from the woodworks, but still, he was wearing himself thin and she was getting concerned. Above anything else, she didn't view him as just a familiar or some lower being. He was his own person. Heck, Siesta was more than willing to let him go back home if he ever found a way, and for that, Ty was grateful. The two of them were kindred spirits, in a sense. Ty, a lot like Siesta, both knew what it meant to come from a more working class background. And just as she never looked down on him, he never looked down on her at all. They were balanced in that sort of way. And because of that, she knew that she had to say something. "Have you been eating properly and sleeping? And do you make sure that I promise, Siesta, I'm fine. Really, you don't have to." "Of course I do. You're fighting to protect all of us. A world that's not even your own. Of course I'm going to worry about you, silly." "I appreciate it. Really, I do. But I promise, I'm all right. I eat every meal that you make for me, and I'm very grateful for it. It gives me the strength to be able to protect all of you. It's what this power was meant for." "Is it ever too much for you?" Siesta would ask. "What do you mean?" "Well, I mean, from the stories that I've heard, you say that you carry one of the most powerful weapons in all of the universe. Doesn't it ever feel like it's too much for you?" "I've never really thought about it that way. I like to think that I was chosen for a reason. If I'm acknowledged to have this type of potential, it means I have the strength to protect everything that matters to me, and that includes you. A lantern's duties don't stop no matter what world they go to. When I took this ring, I took the oath to serve and protect. That is my duty as a Green Lantern, and it's a duty that I will follow till the end." Siesta found herself in awe of who Typhon was. The courage that he possessed. Someone no older than herself, and yet with so much weight and responsibility that came with his duties. She couldn't help but be amazed at the type of man that he was. And of all the familiars, she took personal pride that he was hers. With that, as she settled in, she watched as Ty would ascend back into the air. He was going to be meeting at the good old Barn of Justice, where Damien and Saito had agreed to have a meeting. They hadn't spoken to each other in a while, so it was good to get an update on where everyone was at the current moment, and an update on the situation. As he arrived, he could hear the clanking of metal and other tools inside, and sure enough, Damien was working on his customly made fighter jet that he had now dubbed the Nightwing due to its color pattern of black and blue. And then there was Saito, providing an assist with the power of the Scarab to modify and update the weaponry and the mechanics of the systems. "Took you long enough," Saito would say. "What, another date with Siesta?" "Come on, I wasn't doing anything like that. I was just helping her get settled back into the academy is all. Besides, Damien, that's where you're supposed to be. You agreed to watch over and... Yeah, I know. It's not like I'm that far away. I can get there if I need to. And they're pretty good at taking care of themselves. Besides, I wanted to get an update on everything that's been going on recently. I heard that you guys had your own fair share of issues also. One by one, each boy would go over the events that had transpired. For Damien, they had to deal with a conspiring traitor that was in their midst, a member of Agnes's musketeer force, her lieutenant, Michelle. And then for Saito, they had to deal with another traitor, the now former financial minister of the Tristan treasury, Lishman, as well as his private army that he was conscripting to try to assassinate Queen Henrietta. And then there was Tai Pham, who gave his reports of the various monsters and other rogue bandits that were starting to make a push towards the village of Tristan and to where the common folk were living. One by one, traitors and treachery is just brewing amongst them, Damien would say. It has to be the work of Albion. They're trying to get inside of Tristan and sow division before any fighting can start, Ty would say. But how are they able to get through so easily, though? Saito would chime in. It's starting to become an annoyance. Yeah, if we don't put an end to this soon, Tristan could find itself in the same situation as Albion. That's how it fell, due to a civil war. And with Henrietta just being sworn into her queendom, things are only going to get more intense. Everyone's calling for action, Saito would say. They wanted to engage in war against Albion, to officially declare it. But she hasn't because of Wales, Damien would say. Of course, it's the person that she loves. She can't just declare war on his country. Yeah, but he's kind of running out of options, though, Damien would say. He let his own country fall into disarray because of a civil unrest. And now, because of it, that rebellious army that's now running his floating country in the sky is about to declare war on this nation. He may not want to go to war against his former country, but he's running out of options. You guys aren't entirely wrong. They heard from a new voice not too far off in the distance. Julio? Damien would say. Sorry, hope you didn't mind me tagging along, but I had to see where this famed hangout spot for you three was. Cozy little place, isn't it? And that's the famed Dragon of Tristan. A nice contraption, if I must say so. Nothing like an organic dragon, but powerful all the same. But, as you were all speaking, you're not entirely wrong. Honestly, Julio would speak to them. Perhaps you would have been better off if you had let Wards kill Wales when he had the chance. And why would I have done something like that? Because it would have made this fight with Albion all the more easier. The rebellion can never come to a close as long as a former member of the royal family still exists, and Wales is such a person. Even for the former ties that they had to Tristan, and even for those who may not completely agree with Wards and his rebels, they were still strong enough of a viewpoint that they chose to rebel against the crown, and even more so, they were complicit enough to allow for Wales to die. And with all of that being factored, as long as Wales continues to live, so too does the rebellion, because there will always be the fear that Wales could return, and that his fury could only doom the country of Albion. But he doesn't want that, though, Saito would say. He doesn't even want there to be a war. No, but the people of Albion are against the alliance that he would have with Tristan, and that's more than enough cause for them. All of this is completely stupid. You're saying that because the people don't want to get along, They can't just go with what Wales wants. So they're going to do this whole stupid rebellion and get a whole bunch of people killed in the process. You know what? If that's really how they feel, then maybe they do deserve to die. Saito, Tai would say. We can't decide something like that. Why not? They've already decided it for us. They're just so headstrong to go into war for no good reason. What benefit is it to any of them? War never allows people to act clearly, Damien would say. Anything is justifiable when you think it's strong enough in your heart, even war, and they won't see reason. The only way any negotiations or anything can get done is if they're assured that the former royal family can never take the throne again. And sadly, that can't happen as long as Wales is alive. This left them all with a lot to think about. Of course, no one was suggesting that Wales actually be killed, but at the same time, could they really not make any progress with him in the picture? And then there was Henrietta. She wanted to do everything she could for the man that she loved, but she felt like she was being strong-armed into a war that she nor her country ever wanted. And for Wales, he knew that all of this was because of him. He knew that going back to Albion was suicide. Even for those that would have stood with him, there wouldn't be enough. He'd have to come with an army, but doing so would only incite more war. Pointless fighting that had been going on long since before he had ever come into this world, and would probably exist long after he was in his grave. He didn't want any of it. If it were up to him, he and Henrietta, they would have left a long time ago, left all of this behind. But unfortunately, they couldn't. This was the world that they lived in, and this is what they had to deal with. A situation that couldn't be avoided or ignored. In the meantime, for those who remained at Tristan Academy, the girls were starting to become more acclimated in their new roles, taking a more active approach in their training and staying prepared, just in case the fight ever came to them. But there was also something else. Agnes, the leader of the Musketeer force, had been looking for help. You see, being stationed at the Tristan Academy actually served one of her more personal benefits. As Damien would come to learn, Agnes came from a rather troubling past, and one that he felt was all too familiar. She once lived in a town under the country of Tristan. It was known as d'Angleterre. This town, unfortunately, was razed to the ground and burnt by marauders a little over 20 years ago. Now, the country of Tristan kept everything cataloged, sort of like a historical treasury, if you will. They had many of them stationed, and one of the archives just so happened to be under the school. But you needed special permission in order to get those details, since a lot of the information was classified as royal secret, and only few execs were ever allowed to see them. Even for someone like Agnes, for the position that she was in, she didn't have the clarifications to be able to go into the archives. But she figured with the right help and incentive, she could get what she was looking for. Giulio felt no reason not to assist her in the matter, and for Damien, he thought that maybe this could be an opportunity for him as well. Of course, he knew of the archives thanks to Professor Colbert. After he had extracted the yellow impurity that was the tiny piece of parallax, and having it sealed inside of a magic jar, he gave it to the professor to store it underground as well, believing that was the best place to secure it since he had no way of destroying it. He knew his ways to get to the archives, and seeing how Agnes truly wanted to know more about the destruction of her town and those that had caused it, He felt no reason to stop her, although he would warn her before persisting. I won't try and stop you from gaining the information that you want, Agnes. But you do need to understand, there's no telling what you'll find once you get down there. And what's that supposed to mean? What, am I not supposed to learn the truth? I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that the truth could be greater than you even possibly know, and I don't need the preamble, Damien. I'm grateful for the help, truly I am, but I know what I'm getting myself into. I want the truth. I want to know everything that happened that day. The fact that the information was never given to the public, it's never sat right with me. I want to know who destroyed my home, who took away my family. And that right there was the chord that Damien knew. After all, he was the son of such a man who had been inflicted with the injustice of losing his family in a cruel way. Whether it be the destruction of your village or the acts of a criminal in a back alley under the cover of night. The loss of those loved, a loss that can never be replaced, and a thirst for vengeance and justice that's left in the ashes. Together, the three would make their way to the underground, moving through the catacombs and avoiding the dangerous traps, before eventually finding the archives that they had sought. Of course, as they searched through the rows and the shelves of books, Damien felt like this was also an opportunity to learn more about this world. There was something about it that had always been troubling him, and it had to go all the way back to the day of the familiar summonings. Why was it that he, Saito, and Tai were all brought here in the first place? And it couldn't have been by chance. Giulio could tell that this is what he was thinking. You're wondering about how you got to this world, aren't you? Of course I am. You know that it couldn't have been a coincidence. You've said that the worlds you all come from are different. So you didn't all come from the same world? No. I'm sure of it. I've never met Tai or Saito in my world. Neither have they met me. But there are similarities between all of our worlds. Different heroes and individual beings that exist for all three of us, but at different points in time. I see. Similar worlds, yet slightly different. And, as if they were all different types of rivers, they flow into one basin. That's what you're thinking, isn't it? Giulio would ask. It's been on my mind for a while now. But I have reason to believe that this world, something about it, it's connected to others. And that this is like a nexus point. That this is the center of something. But to what, I'm not entirely sure. What could they all have in common? And I found it. They heard from Agnes as she was on the other side of the archives. She found the book that gave the report of what had happened, the destruction of her home. But of course, as she was reading through the files, getting ready to get to the end, a few of the pages were missing. No, where's the rest of it? It seems like the evidence has been tampered with before we got here. But why? Why would someone just... All three of them fell silent in that moment, because they knew all too well what this signified. Tristan knows who was involved, Damien would say. And chances are whoever it is probably has close ties to the country itself. What? You're saying that Tristan ordered the destruction of Agnes's home? Maybe not necessarily, but it's just... They know the truth, and they're trying to cover it up. Hold on, Agnes. You don't know that for sure, and what else can it be? Why isn't it here? Where else could it have gone? They know it. I know they do. One way or another, I will find the truth. And I don't care who's involved or how high up it is. They're going to pay. Agnes? Damien would try to calm her down. No, I don't care. I don't care if it's the damn queen. I'm just going to... Agnes! You need to think rationally. You're talking about the queen. Your village was destroyed. Henrietta wasn't even born yet. You'd just be blaming her for no reason, and you know it. I'm not blaming her, but someone knows, and someone's going to pay. Damien could see by the look in her eyes that she meant it, and there was going to be very little that he could do to persuade her otherwise. And honestly, he didn't want to. Of course, it would go against how he was taught, what his father would want. But now he found himself gripping with even bigger decisions on his mind. Was there really no situation where a life for a life was not acceptable? If you truly stood for justice and everything that fell under it, were you not obligated to avenge those that had fallen? Could those that committed great atrocities and great evil, why should they be given leniency, a form of mercy, mercy that was not shown onto others? But Damien also knew that thinking that way in every situation could also be dangerous, because it could only take one time. Not one size fits all. Justice was a scale that had to be measured carefully, because more often than not, life and death hung in the balance. However, there was another pressing matter that they would all have to attend to, as Queen Henrietta would call for an emergency meeting. Louise, Damien, Siesta, Typhon, all of them would be summoned. Agnes and her members of the musketeer force, all of those of high importance, would be gathered together in the Queen's chambers, as they had received a message from Albion, a disturbing one. By the time Damien and everyone else arrived, they could see the look on Saito's face, as well as Wales. And for Henrietta, they could see the bags that were under the poor girl's eyes, as if a well of tears were coming along as well. She was really going through the ringer. And this might have been the feather that would break her back. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. I know that it's late into the night, and I promise I won't keep you all for long. But I've called for this meeting because we have received word from Albion. This is what it says. To Your Highness, the Queen of Tristan, if you are seeking for a peaceable end to this conflict, then we request that you turn over the traitor Prince Wales into our custody, dead or alive. Doing so will quell the rebellion in Albion, and we will retreat our forces from your midst. Failure to do so will be seen as a cause for hostility against our nation, and if need be, we will exercise just action and authority until the traitor has been neutralized. So that's what they want, Damien said. They want whales. I've brought all of this trouble to you. Everything that's happened now is because of me. If my life is what must be paid, then so you're not doing it, Saito would say. What? You think we're just going to hand you over so you can die? And it's not your decision to make, Saito. And it's not just yours to die so easily. Whether you like it or not, there are people that need you. People that care about you. You don't just get to up and die like that. If this is the demands that they want, then screw it. If Albion wants a fight so badly, then let's give it to them. Saito, Damien would say. We are not soldiers. We're just what? We have the power to stop them. They can't see reason. They want to keep this going. It's not going to stop with just one, and you know it. We give up whales, and then what? They'll keep asking for more, and more, and more. And every time they don't get what they want, they'll just try for another war anyway. You're right. We're not soldiers. We're not warriors. And no one wins. But that doesn't mean we have to be pushed over either. I'm sorry for speaking out of turn, Your Highness. Truly I am. But you cannot give in to their demands. For Henrietta, it was moments like these that she was truly grateful to have someone like Saito next to her. She already knew what she was going to do in her heart, but to have the encouragement, the backing. We're not looking for war, Damien would say. But I do agree with Saito. You can't just give up your friends, Tai would say. That wouldn't be right, Louise would add in. Whatever you choose to do, Your Highness, we stand with you. I am grateful for you all. I will not hand over Prince Wales. Henrietta, Wales would say. You can't just get to decide, and I'm not going to let you die. I have no plans to. I do not want a fight with Albion. I wish there was another course. But I have allowed these rebels to torture my friend, my beloved, and they have threatened my kingdom for the last time. So no, I will not turn you over. I do not wish war, but I am prepared for it. And if that is what must take place, then I will do what is necessary. I pray that we can find a resolution. But if this is what they want, then may God have mercy on their souls. For Damien and everyone else in that room, they all stood in agreement. But they knew that doing so, it meant that war would be inevitable. This concludes Familiar of Zero Tales of the Robin. What If Robin Was Louise's Familiar? Season 2, Part 3. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned tomorrow as we continue with Familiar of Zero, Tales of the Robin. What If Robin Was Louise's Familiar? Season 2, Part 4. But anyway, That's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with Power Core Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.